Greetings all. Let's have a look at US30. Before I get into this chart, I just thought that I should mention that the analysis on this particular chart will be very much similar to that of the Nasdaq 100 analysis that I just uploaded a few, I guess, minutes ago. So yeah, there might be some similarities, and that is because the two indices are very much correlated, and what usually happens on the one happens on the other as well, right? Except for when we have news releases and other fundamentals, you know, that's when they diverge and they converge again once the fundamentals are not as volatile, right? So anyway, let's get into the chart without wasting any further time. So let's see. So you guys can see that I've got the weekly chart open, and the first thing that I can already see that is very much important is how Friday's candle actually closed. It closed as a liquidity candlestick, and it tells us that in the future, or rather in the next week or so, we will see, or we will possibly see price come back to that level to trigger that liquidity, and then possibly start moving upwards from there, right? So what I'm going to do now is actually just mark that liquidity candlestick, because it is actually very, very important. There we go. Price has to get to that level. Let's see. So what else do we see on this chart? Let's see. What else do we see? So in previous videos, we had spoken about this overextended M structure, which has a neckline there, right? We saw price breaking the neckline and then going back to that neckline to retest it, and we saw it pushing further down, right? However, we can see that last week's candle went back to the neckline, right? And this area has now become a very strong area of resistance. Yeah, so as much as price right now has moved upwards and very strongly, we might see it come back to this level to trigger that liquidity before actually pushing further up, right? So what I'm going to do now is just mark that area of resistance, because it's actually very much important. So just bear with me. There we go. 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 There goes our area of resistance. So I don't see anything further here that is particularly very interesting. So I'm just gonna head down to the daily chart. Here we are on the daily chart. On the daily chart, I'm just gonna start by adding my channel. So just bear with me, guys. Let's see. Excuse me. I just need to ensure that it is as accurate as can be. Just to ensure that at the end of the day, when we do execute, our execution is also very much strong, right? So there we go. Let's see. So what do we see on the daily chart that is interesting? On the daily chart, I see an inverted head and shoulders pattern, with this being the left hand shoulder, this being the head, and this being the right hand shoulder. So the anticipation is that price should move further up to complete that head and shoulders pattern, right? So as much as we have that head and shoulders pattern, just bear in mind that we also had this M structure with a neckline there, and I said that this neckline is now a very strong area of resistance, so we actually have a bit of a dilemma, because we have this M structure with a neckline there, and we also have this inverted head and shoulders pattern, and its neckline is also here, right? So in my humble opinion, and especially if you are executing on the bigger time frames, such as the daily time frame, it would make it very, very risky in as far as buying or selling in this region. And that is because we have two opposing structures, or rather we have two structures yeah, we have two opposing structures that have necklines in more or less the same area. So that's what we have an M structure, and we have an inverted head and shoulders pattern. The M structure's neckline is there, and the inverted head and shoulders pattern is also there, right? And currently price is somewhere here where the necklines are. So it becomes very risky in as far as buying or selling in this area goes. So the best thing, in my humble opinion, and especially if you are executing on the higher time frames, is to wait for price to actually maybe close above this side of the neckline, then wait for it to come back to the neckline to retest it, and then look for further buying opportunities, or wait for price to close below the neckline, and then go back to the neckline to retest it and look for further selling opportunities, in my humble opinion. That is if you are executing on the higher time frames, right? Anyway, let's proceed. So what else do we see on this chart that is interesting? Earlier I spoke about how we have liquidity here. We also have liquidity at this level because of this candlestick over here. There's a whole lot of liquidity sitting over there, and it needs to be grabbed by the market as well. So I'm just going to mark that area as well because it is very much important. Let's see. There we go. There we go. Right. I just want to see if I can add a trend line here. Just bear with me, guys. Yes, I can add a trend line there, it seems. Let's see. Okay, that's fine. I'm just gonna make it a different color. Just make it a purple. There we go. So as much as we have that M structure with a neckline there, as well as the inverted head and shoulders pattern with a neckline there, we also have this trend line over here, and we had a touch there, we had another touch here, and we might in the next coming days see another touch here, and price may possibly push further down. I hope what I'm saying makes sense. My drawings are a bit messy, but I hope what I'm saying makes sense. Let me just repeat that. So we have this trend line over here, we have a touch, we had a touch there, we had two more touches here, and we might see another third touch here, and from there price may possibly move further down, maybe to this level or even this level, to grab that liquidity that I've been speaking about, and we might as a result see a double formation happen, and maybe from here price may start to move further up, right? Yeah, so we need to keep in the back of our minds that all of these are possibilities, and they may or may not happen, right? We just need a 360-degree view of what is going on in the market, right? So what else do we see on this chart that is particularly interesting? So as much as, guys, I've been speaking about this inverted head and shoulders pattern, we also have an M structure here, right, with a neckline here, and we saw price failed to break the neckline there and went further back up. So what may also happen is that price may form a triple top at this point and then move further down as well, because this is also, as I said, a very strong area of resistance, right? So this is why I also say that it's actually very risky to buy or sell at this point, right? It's actually very risky because there are too many patterns, there are too many confirmations, and price may go anywhere just depending on what happens on the day. And also another thing that I wanted to mention is that the earnings season has started, and if you think you're seeing um, a whole lot of choppiness in the market, I think it's going to get worse as the big companies such as your Googles, your Facebooks, your Amazons, as well as your big banks release their results, right? Anyway, so that's the daily chart. From here, I'm just going to move down to the H4 chart. Let's see. On the H4 chart, I'm just going to fix my channels. Let's see. There we go. Let's see. There goes my channels. All right, that's fine. Okay, so here we are on the H4 chart. So what do we see on the H4 chart? What do we see on the H4 chart that is interesting, or that we should be paying very close attention to? Just bear with me as I fix this trend line. Okay, there we go. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just add or rather my equidistant channel. There we go. There we go. All right. So we can see that the market is moving. The market is moving upwards within this channel, right? But what else do we see on this chart, which is the H4 chart, that is particularly very interesting? As I said, guys, this chart is very much similar to the US Tag chart in that it also has on the H4 chart price moving almost in a sideways kind of way, right? And which is choppiness in my humble opinion, and that's also another reason why I said buying or selling in this region is a bit risky, right? But more so on the bigger time frames, right? But I think on the lower time frames, one may be able to actually get away with it. So let's see. What do we see on this chart? So on this chart, this is what I see. So we saw price creating a W structure here, right? And I've said to you guys that whenever it comes to W structures, what normally happens is a lot of traders and investors buy on the second leg of the W. So people bought here, right? Putting their stop losses just below that structure. Hence, we saw this entire move downwards to this level. This entire move was a stop hunt, right? This entire move was a stop hunt to grab the stop losses that were sitting in and around this area over here. Hence we saw price move out of that region very, very quickly. It was just to make sure that they get away from this region, right? Anyway, let's proceed. What else do we see on this chart that is interesting? Yeah, so at this point, guys, in as far as the H4 chart goes, I don't see any buying or selling opportunities. However, I spoke about on the daily chart this trend line, and we have, I think, more than 3 touches, and in the next coming days we will see another touch here, and a lot of people will be looking for selling opportunities. Myself, I won't be looking for any selling opportunities, and that is because it's a bit risky in this area. So what I would do is I would actually just wait and see what actually happens next week. All right. So that is my analysis in as far as US30 is concerned. I hope that was helpful. But at this point in time, I do not see any buying or selling opportunities in my, yeah, humble view. Anyway, thanks and peace out.